A wealthy tech executive with a wounded heart meets a little girl in a park. Her unexpected hug brings light into his dark world. But he never imagined she would be the key to finding the woman he's been desperately searching for. Will this chance encounter finally heal the pain that's haunted him for years? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The autumn rain fell steadily as Ethan Reynolds stood in the cemetery, raindrops mixing with the tears he refused to acknowledge. At 38, Ethan had built a tech empire worth hundreds of millions, with offices in 4 countries and a name that commanded respect throughout Silicon Valley. But today, none of that mattered. Today, he was just a man saying goodbye to his younger brother, the last family he had left in the world. "The service was beautiful," said Vanessa, his executive assistant, holding an umbrella over them both. Ethan nodded, his expression hollow. "Alex would have hated every minute of it," he said quietly. Too formal, too many people he barely knew. "Your car is waiting, Mr. Reynolds," Vanessa reminded him gently. "The board meeting starts in an hour." Ethan stared at the fresh grave, adorned with flowers that would soon wither in the rain. 3 years of strained conversations and missed opportunities, ended by a car accident that had stolen any chance of reconciliation. The weight of regret pressed down on him, heavier than the rain-soaked suit he wore. "Cancel it," Ethan said suddenly. "Cancel everything for the rest of the week." Vanessa's eyes widened. "But sir, the merger—" "It can wait," Ethan cut her off, already walking away. "Tell them I need time." He heard Vanessa calling after him, but for once in his meticulously controlled life, Ethan kept walking. The cold rain soaked through his expensive suit, but he welcomed the discomfort. It felt real, something other than the numbness that had enveloped him since the police call 3 days ago. He walked without direction, paying no attention to where his feet were taking him. After 20 minutes, Ethan found himself at the entrance to Westlake Park, a place he hadn't visited in years despite living just a few miles away. Something drew him inside, perhaps the memory of coming here with Alex when they were children, back when life was simpler. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, and a few brave souls were emerging to enjoy the brief respite. Ethan sat on a bench overlooking the small lake, watching ducks glide across the water's surface. For the first time in days, his mind quieted, if only for a moment. He didn't notice the little girl approach until she was standing right in front of him, no more than 5 years old, with curly brown hair and bright green eyes that studied him with unabashed curiosity. "Are you sad?" she asked, her head tilted to one side. Ethan blinked, startled by the direct question. "Yes," he answered honestly, surprising himself. The girl nodded, as if this confirmed something important. "My mommy says when people are sad, they need hugs." Before Ethan could respond, she stepped forward and wrapped her small arms around his neck in a fierce embrace. For a moment, Ethan froze, completely unprepared for this tiny human's act of compassion. Then, something inside him cracked open, and he felt tears welling in his eyes. He didn't return the hug, couldn't remember the last time he'd embraced anyone, but he didn't pull away either. "Lily!" A woman's voice called from nearby. "Lily, where are you?" The little girl released him and stepped back. "That's my mommy," she explained. "I have to go. I hope you feel better." With that, she turned and ran toward the voice. Ethan watched her go, oddly reluctant to let this brief connection end. The woman who had called out appeared from around a bend in the path, relief washing over her face as the little girl ran to her. She crouched down, her long auburn hair falling forward as she spoke to her daughter. Something about her profile, the way she moved, sent a jolt through Ethan's body. He stood abruptly, heart pounding in his chest. It couldn't be. After all this time, it couldn't possibly be her. The woman stood, taking her daughter's hand, and for a brief moment she glanced in Ethan's direction. Though too far away to see her features clearly, something in the way she quickly looked away and hurried in the opposite direction confirmed his suspicion. Claire. Claire Bennett. The woman he'd spent the last 6 years trying to find. Before he could think better of it, Ethan was moving. following at a distance as the woman and child walked briskly toward the park exit. He saw them get into a modest blue sedan, and without conscious decision, he flagged down a passing taxi. "Follow that blue car," he said to the driver, pointing to Claire's sedan as it pulled away from the curb. The driver gave him a skeptical look. "For real, man? That's some movie stuff." Ethan pulled out his wallet and handed the driver a $100 bill. "Please, it's important." The driver shrugged and pulled into traffic, keeping a discreet distance behind the blue sedan. Ethan's mind raced. 6 years of private investigators, of searching social media, of following every possible lead. And now, by pure chance, he might have found her. Found them. Because that little girl, Lily, she would be about the right age. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The blue sedan drove to a residential neighborhood of modest homes, finally pulling into the driveway of a small yellow house with a well-tended garden. Ethan asked the taxi to stop half a block away, watching as Claire and Lily disappeared inside. "This is crazy," he muttered to himself. But he couldn't leave, not when he'd searched for so long. He paid the taxi driver generously and got out, standing uncertainly on the sidewalk. What now? He couldn't simply walk up and knock on the door. Claire had made it abundantly clear she wanted nothing to do with him. The last time he'd seen her, she'd told him in no uncertain terms to stay out of her life forever. Yet here he was, drawn by a chance encounter with a little girl who almost certainly was, his daughter. A daughter he hadn't known existed until this moment. Ethan took out his phone, fingers hovering over the screen. There was one person who could help him navigate this situation, someone who knew both him and Claire. He dialed the number. "Ethan?" The surprise in Michael Chen's voice was evident. "I heard about Alex. I'm so sorry, man." "Thanks," Ethan said, his eyes still fixed on the yellow house. "But that's not why I'm calling. Mike, I found her. I found Claire." Silence stretched across the line. Michael had been Ethan's college roommate and remained his closest friend. Despite Ethan's tendency to get absorbed in work, he was also the only person who knew the full story of what had happened between Ethan and Claire. "Are you sure?" Michael finally asked. "I'm looking at her house right now," Ethan confirmed. "And Mike, she has a daughter, a little girl around 5 years old." Another long pause. "You think—" "I don't know," Ethan cut him off, "but the timing fits. Where are you? I'm coming to you." Ethan gave him the address, and 30 minutes later, Michael's black SUV pulled up beside him. Michael, dressed in jeans and a sweater that contrasted with Ethan's still damp suit, stepped out and embraced his friend. "You look terrible," Michael said, stepping back to study Ethan's face. "My brother just died, and I may have a daughter I never knew about." "I think I'm entitled," Ethan replied, attempting a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Michael turned to look at the yellow house. "So that's where she's been all this time? Right here in Seattle?" Ethan shook his head. "I don't know. The investigators checked Seattle multiple times. She must have moved back recently." "What's your plan here, Ethan?" Michael asked gently. "You can't just stalk her house." "I don't have a plan," Ethan admitted. "I didn't expect to find her today." "I didn't expect," he broke off, emotion threatening to overwhelm him. "The little girl, Lily, she came up to me in the park and hugged me because she thought I looked sad." Michael's expression softened. "That sounds like something Claire's child would do." They stood in silence for a moment, both remembering the woman who had once been the center of Ethan's world. "You need to talk to her," Michael said finally. "Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. If that little girl is yours, you have a right to know, and she has a right to know you." "Claire made it clear she never wanted to see me again," Ethan reminded him. "That was 6 years ago. People change. Circumstances change." Michael placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "But first, you need to get some rest. You're in no state to have that conversation right now." Ethan knew his friend was right, but the thought of walking away now, of letting Claire and Lily disappear again filled him with dread. "I'll come back tomorrow," he decided. "I'll figure out what to say by then." Michael nodded. "Come on, I'll drive you home. Your assistant called me, by the way. She's worried about you." "Vanessa worries too much," Ethan said, but allowed himself to be led to the car. That night, in his expansive penthouse overlooking the Seattle skyline, Ethan couldn't sleep. He paced the minimalist space that had never felt like a home, his mind replaying the last time he'd seen Claire, 6 years ago. They had been together for nearly 2 years, the longest and most meaningful relationship of his life. Claire, with her quick laugh and artistic soul, had brought color to his workaholic existence. While Ethan was building his company, Claire was a talented photographer who saw beauty in the ordinary moments he often missed. Then came the fight that ended everything. Ethan's company was on the verge of its first major acquisition, a deal that would establish Rain Tech as a serious player in the industry. He had been working 16-hour days, canceling plans with Claire, missing important moments. The night of her photography exhibition opening, the event she'd been working toward for months, he'd been trapped in final negotiations. He'd promised to make it, swore he would be there to support her biggest achievement. But the hours ticked by, and as midnight approached, he realized he'd missed the entire event. When he finally made it to her apartment, apologies tumbling from his lips, Claire had been calm in a way that frightened him. "This isn't working, Ethan," she had said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "We want different things from life." He'd argued, promised to do better to make her a priority. But Claire had been resolute. "You say that now, but nothing will really change. Your work will always come first, and I can't build a life with someone who isn't fully present." "Claire, please, I love you," he had pleaded. "Sometimes love isn't enough," she had replied, before asking him to leave and not contact her again. He'd respected her wishes at first. But as weeks turned into months, the void she left became unbearable. He tried calling, but her number was disconnected. When he went to her apartment, he discovered she had moved with no forwarding address. Her friends either didn't know where she'd gone or refused to tell him. That's when he hired the first investigator, then the second, and eventually a team dedicated to finding Claire Bennett. But it was as if she had vanished completely. Until today, when a little girl's random act of kindness had changed everything. Morning came, and with it, clarity. Ethan showered and dressed casually, trying to look as non-threatening as possible. He instructed his driver to take him back to Claire's neighborhood, but to drop him off several blocks away. He didn't want to arrive in a luxury car that screamed, "Wealthy CEO." As he approached the yellow house, Ethan's steps slowed. What if she slammed the door in his face? What if seeing him again caused her pain? What if Lily wasn't his daughter after all, and this was all a massive misunderstanding? He was about to turn back when the front door opened, and Lily emerged, wearing a backpack almost as big as she was. Claire followed, keys in hand, clearly preparing for the school run. It was now or never. Ethan took a deep breath and walked forward, stopping at the edge of the driveway. Claire was helping Lily into a booster seat in the back of the car when she sensed his presence and looked up. The recognition was immediate, her face draining of color. She straightened slowly, closing the car door with Lily safely inside. "Ethan," she said, her voice barely audible. "Hello, Claire," he replied, staying where he was, giving her space. "I know this is unexpected." "How did you find me?" Her arms crossed protectively over her chest, a gesture he remembered well. "I didn't, not really. I was at Westlake Park yesterday, and Lily—" He paused, unsure how to continue. Understanding dawned on Claire's face. "You were the man she hugged, the sad man on the bench." Ethan nodded. "She's remarkable, Claire." A flash of something, pride perhaps, crossed Claire's features before she suppressed it. "I need to take her to school." "Can we talk? After?" Ethan asked, trying to keep the desperation from his voice. "Please, Claire. 5 minutes." Claire glanced at her watch, then at Lily waiting patiently in the car. "I have to be at work by 9, she said finally. "I'll be back here at 8:30. 5 minutes, Ethan. That's all." It was more than he had dared hope for. "Thank you. I'll wait." Claire nodded stiffly before getting into her car and driving away. Ethan watched until they turned the corner, then found a coffee shop nearby to wait out the hour. At precisely 8:30, Ethan returned to the yellow house, his heart pounding so hard he was sure Claire would hear it when she opened the door. He knocked gently, and almost immediately, the door swung open. Claire looked exactly as he remembered, yet somehow different. Her auburn hair was shorter now, falling just past her shoulders. Her green eyes, Lily's eyes, regarded him warily. She was still beautiful in a way that made his chest ache. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. "But remember, 5 minutes." The inside of the house was warm and lived in, with photographs on every wall. Claire's work, he recognized her style immediately. Many featured Lily at various ages, from infancy to recently. "You have a lovely home," Ethan said, unsure how to begin the conversation they needed to have. "Why are you here, Ethan?" Claire cut to the chase, remaining standing, making it clear this wasn't a social call. Ethan took a deep breath. "Yesterday, when Lily hugged me, I had no idea who she was. I was at the park because I needed to clear my head. My brother, Alex, he died in a car accident 3 days ago." Claire's expression softened slightly. "I'm sorry to hear that." "Thank you," Ethan said. "But when I saw you with Lily, when I realized who you were, I couldn't just walk away. Not again." He paused, gathering his courage. "Claire, is Lily my daughter?" The question hung in the air between them. Claire's eyes closed briefly, as if she'd been expecting this but wasn't quite ready for it. "Yes," she finally said. "Lily is your daughter." Even though he had suspected, had almost known, hearing the confirmation knocked the breath from Ethan's lungs. He sank onto the nearest chair, overwhelmed. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked when he could find his voice again. 6 years, Claire. I've been searching for you for 6 years." Claire's composure cracked slightly. "I didn't know I was pregnant when I left Seattle. I found out about a month later, and by then, I was staying with my aunt in Portland, trying to figure out my next steps." "But after that," Ethan pressed, "why keep it from me all this time?" "At first, I was angry and hurt," Claire admitted. "I told myself you wouldn't want the responsibility, that it would just be an inconvenience to your grand plans. That's not fair." "I know that now," Claire interrupted. "But I was 26, and heartbroken and scared. By the time I was thinking more clearly, months had passed, and it seemed too late. And then, when Lily was born..." She looked at one of the photos on the wall, a newborn Lily wrapped in a pink blanket. "I was determined to give her a stable, happy life. I wasn't sure you could be part of that." "So you hid from me," Ethan said, unable to keep the hurt from his voice. "Changed your name?" Claire nodded. "I use my middle name and my mother's maiden name professionally now. Claire is still my legal first name." "And the investigators I hired? They should have found you." "I stayed completely off the grid for the first few years," Claire explained. "No social media, cash only when possible, lived with my aunt until Lily was 3. And I specifically asked everyone who knew about Lily not to tell you if you came looking." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, trying to process everything. "I've missed 5 years of her life." "I know," Claire said quietly, "and I'm not proud of that decision now." "Why come back to Seattle? Why now?" "My aunt died last year. She left me enough money to buy this house, and I got a good job offer at Pacific Northwest magazine as a staff photographer. It seemed like the right time to come home." "Were you ever going to tell me?" Ethan asked. Claire's 5-minute timer chimed, but she ignored it. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "I've thought about it, especially recently. Lily has started asking about her father, but I was afraid of disrupting her life and yours." "Claire!" Ethan leaned forward, his eyes intense. "I want to know my daughter. I've lost so much time already." Claire studied him, really looked at him for the first time since he'd arrived. "You've changed," she observed. "You seem different." 6 years is a long time," Ethan said. "Losing Alex has made me reevaluate a lot of things, but one thing hasn't changed. I never stopped looking for you." The admission hung between them, loaded with unspoken emotions. "I can't just let you walk into Lily's life and then disappear if it gets tough," Claire said firmly. "She's not a business deal you can abandon when something more important comes along." The words stung, but Ethan understood the fear behind them. I'm not asking to be Father of the Year overnight. I just want a chance to know her, to be part of her life in whatever way you think is appropriate." Claire was quiet for a long moment, clearly weighing her options. "I need time to think about this, Ethan. And I need to figure out how to explain it to Lily." It wasn't a no, which was more than Ethan had dared hope for. "Take all the time you need." "I'm not going anywhere this time." Claire nodded, then moved toward the door, indicating their conversation was over for now. "I'm sorry about Alex," she said as Ethan stood to leave. "I know how close you were to him." "We weren't, not at the end," Ethan admitted, another regret to live with. Something in Claire's expression shifted, a flash of the empathy that had drawn him to her years ago. "I'll call you in a few days, once I've had time to think." "Thank you, Claire. That's all I'm asking for." Ethan pulled a business card from his wallet and placed it on the small table by the door. "My personal number is on the back." As he walked down the front path, Ethan turned back once. Claire stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. He raised his hand in a small wave, and after a moment's hesitation, she returned the gesture before closing the door. Back in his car, Ethan felt a curious mixture of emotions. Grief for his brother, shock at discovering he was a father, hope that he might have a chance to know Lily, and a lingering ache for all the years lost. But for the first time since Alex's death, perhaps for the first time in years, he felt something else too. Purpose. The next 3 days were the longest of Ethan's life. He went through the motions at work, delegating most of his responsibilities to his capable executive team, citing his need for time to grieve Alex. In reality, he could barely focus on anything except the fact that somewhere across the city was a little girl with his blood running through her veins. He found himself researching child development, trying to understand what 5-year-olds were like, what they needed, what they enjoyed. He thought about his own childhood, about the good times before his parents died, about the lessons his father had taught him. Would he be a good father? Could he learn how to be one? On the 4th day, as Ethan was about to leave his office, his phone rang with an unfamiliar number. His heart leapt when he heard Claire's voice. "I've thought about it," she said without preamble. "And I've talked to Lily, in simple terms that she can understand. She knows that her father has been away, but that he just found out about her and wants to meet her." "What did she say?" Ethan asked, holding his breath. "She asked if you were the sad man from the park," Claire replied, and Ethan could hear the slight smile in her voice. "When I said yes, she said she already gave you a hug, so you must not be a stranger anymore." The simple logic of childhood brought unexpected tears to Ethan's eyes. "She's amazing, Claire." "She is," Claire agreed. "If you're free this Saturday, you could come over for lunch. Nothing fancy, just a chance for you to meet her properly." "I'll be there," Ethan promised immediately. "What time?" "Noon." "And Ethan? Don't bring any gifts, not this time. I don't want her to associate you with presents." "I understand," Ethan said, though he'd already been mentally shopping for the perfect present. "Just me. Just you," Claire confirmed before hanging up. Saturday arrived both too quickly and not quickly enough. Ethan spent an inordinate amount of time choosing what to wear, finally settling on casual jeans and a sweater that Michael assured him made him look approachable rather than intimidating. He arrived at Claire's house at exactly noon, a bundle of nerves unlike anything he'd felt before business presentations or investor meetings. This mattered more than any deal he'd ever made. Claire opened the door, looking slightly nervous herself. "Come in," she said. "Lily's excited to meet you." The little girl was sitting at the kitchen table, coloring intently. She looked up when Ethan entered, her green eyes, his mother's eyes, he realized with a start, studying him curiously. "Hello, Lily," Ethan said, suddenly unsure how to talk to a child. "I'm Ethan." "I know," Lily said seriously. "Mommy says you're my dad." The directness of children. "Yes, I am," Ethan confirmed, his voice rough with emotion. Lily nodded, accepting this information with remarkable ease. "Do you want to see my picture? I'm drawing our family." Ethan approached the table cautiously, as if any sudden movement might shatter this fragile moment. The drawing showed 3 stick figures, a small one with curly brown hair, a taller one with long red hair, and a third, slightly apart from the others, with what appeared to be a tie. "That's a wonderful picture," Ethan said. "Is that me?" He pointed to the figure with the tie. Lily nodded. "Mommy said you wear ties for your job." "I do, sometimes," Ethan confirmed. "But not today." "That's okay," Lily said magnanimously. "I can change it later." Claire had been watching the interaction closely. "Why don't we have lunch, and then maybe Ethan would like to see your rock collection." "You collect rocks?" Ethan asked, genuinely interested. Lily's face lit up. "I have 27 different kinds. Some are shiny, and some have fossils, and one looks like a heart." Lunch was simple, sandwiches and fruit, but to Ethan, it was the most important meal of his life. He listened attentively as Lily chattered about school, her friends, and her rock collection. He answered her questions as honestly as he could, simplifying complex concepts about his work to terms she could understand. "Do you build robots?" she asked at one point. "Not exactly," Ethan explained. "My company makes the special instructions that tell computers what to do." Lily considered this. "That sounds boring," she decided, causing Claire to choke slightly on her water. Ethan laughed, the sound unfamiliar even to his own ears. "It can be sometimes," he admitted, "but it's also like solving puzzles, which I enjoy." After lunch, Lily insisted on showing him her rock collection, carefully arranged in a special box her Uncle Mike had made for her. Ethan felt a twinge, realizing that Michael had known about Lily all along, but had kept Claire's secret. "This one is my favorite," Lily said, holding up a perfectly round stone with bands of color running through it. "I found it at the beach." "It's beautiful," Ethan agreed. "You have an excellent collection." The afternoon passed quickly, with Lily gradually becoming more comfortable with Ethan's presence. When it was time for him to leave, she surprised him with another hug. "Will you come back?" she asked, looking up at him with those familiar green eyes. Ethan glanced at Claire, who nodded slightly. "Yes, I'd like to, if that's okay with you and your mom." "It's okay with me," Lily declared. "Next time I'll show you my books." At the door, after Lily had gone to her room, Claire spoke quietly. "That went better than I expected." "She's incredible, Claire," Ethan said sincerely. "You've done an amazing job with her." Claire accepted the compliment with a nod. "We need to take this slowly, Ethan. For her sake." "I agree," he said. "I was thinking, maybe next weekend we could do something together? A trip to the aquarium, perhaps?" Claire hesitated. "Let's start with another visit here first. I don't want to rush things." Ethan nodded, accepting her caution. "Whatever you think is best. I'm just grateful for the chance to know her." As he walked to his car, Ethan felt lighter than he had in years. The grief over Alex was still there. The regret for lost time with Claire and Lily still stung. But now there was something else too. Hope for the future, for a chance to be the father Lily deserved, and perhaps, in time, to heal old wounds with Claire. The next few weeks established a careful routine. Ethan visited Lily twice a week, always at Claire's house, always under her watchful eye. Each visit revealed new facets of his daughter's personality. Her passion for rocks extended to an interest in all things scientific, her artistic talent clearly inherited from her mother, and her empathetic nature that seemed uniquely her own. For Ethan, these visits became the highlight of his week. He found himself thinking about Lily during board meetings, wondering what she would think of the office's floor-to-ceiling windows or the elaborate fish tank in the lobby. He started keeping a small notebook of things to tell her, observations or stories he thought might make her laugh. Claire gradually relaxed, as she saw Ethan's genuine commitment to building a relationship with Lily. She noted how he listened attentively to Lily's endless stories, never checking his phone or seeming impatient. He remembered details from previous conversations, following up on Lily's school projects and asking about friends she had mentioned. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Claire invited Ethan to stay for coffee, the first time she had extended his visit beyond Lily's bedtime. "You're different with her than I expected," Claire admitted, handing him a steaming mug. Ethan accepted the coffee, appreciating the gesture of trust it represented. "How so?" "You're patient," Claire said, settling across from him at the kitchen table. "The Ethan I knew was always rushing, always thinking 3 steps ahead. With Lily, you're present in a way you never were with me. The observation stung, but Ethan couldn't deny its truth. Losing Alex changed something in me, he said quietly. Made me realize what really matters. Claire studied him over the rim of her mug. I'm sorry about your brother. Were you able to reconcile before? Ethan shook his head, the familiar regret washing over him. We spoke occasionally, but it was always surface level. After our parents died, I threw myself into building the company. And Alex, he had his own demons to battle. We never really talked about the important things. That's why you were at the park that day, Claire realized. After the funeral. Yes. I was trying to clear my head, figure out how to live with another regret. Ethan met her gaze directly. I've collected quite a few over the years. Claire didn't look away. We all have regrets, Ethan. Do you regret not telling me about Lily? The question had been burning inside him for weeks. Claire considered this, taking her time to answer. I regret the way I handled it, she said finally, not the initial decision. I needed space to figure things out, but letting years pass, moving around to avoid being found. Yes, I regret that now. Seeing you with her, I realized she deserved to know you sooner. It wasn't a complete apology, but it was honest, and Ethan appreciated that. I would have done things differently too, he offered. If I could go back to when we were together, I would have made different choices. We can't change the past, Claire said, echoing thoughts Ethan had been wrestling with since Alex's death. We can only try to do better going forward. The conversation marked a subtle shift in their dynamic. Over the next few visits, Claire became more inclusive, sharing stories about Lily's early years, showing Ethan photos she had previously kept private. Sometimes, she'd even leave them alone together while she ran errands, a significant demonstration of trust. After a month of house visits, Claire finally agreed to Ethan's suggestion of an outing to the aquarium. Lily was ecstatic, bouncing with excitement as they approached the massive building with its ocean-themed architecture. I've never been here before, she exclaimed, her small hand gripping Ethan's tightly. Never? Ethan looked at Claire in surprise. Claire shrugged slightly. Tickets are expensive, and there was always something more practical to spend money on. The comment was a stark reminder of the different worlds they inhabited. The cost of admission that Ethan hadn't even considered would have been a significant expense for Claire as a single mother. It made him more determined that today would be special for both of them. Lily's wonder at the underwater tunnels, her face illuminated by the blue glow of massive tanks, her gasps of delight at colorful fish and undulating jellyfish. These moments etched themselves permanently in Ethan's memory. He found himself experiencing the aquarium through her eyes, with a freshness he hadn't felt in years. Look, Daddy, that fish has a face like Grandpa Joe, Lily pointed, giggling at a grumpy-looking grouper. Ethan froze, his heart skipping at being called Daddy for the first time. He glanced at Claire, who looked equally surprised, but gave him a small nod of acknowledgement. You're right, Ethan managed, his voice rough with emotion. He does look grumpy, doesn't he? Later, as Lily pressed her nose against the glass of the sea otter exhibit, Claire moved closer to Ethan. She started calling you that on her own, she said quietly. I didn't suggest it. Is it okay? Ethan asked, still overwhelmed by the simple word and all it represented. Claire nodded. It's who you are to her. The day at the aquarium opened the door to more outings. The Children's Museum, the zoo, a local playground with an elaborate climbing structure that Lily conquered fearlessly while Ethan watched with his heart in his throat. Each excursion built Lily's comfort with Ethan and deepened the bond forming between them. At work, Ethan's leadership team noticed the change in him. He still drove projects forward with vision and purpose, but he now enforced reasonable working hours for his team and himself. He declined non-essential travel and blocked off his calendar for Lily's visits without apology. Vanessa, who had worked with him for years, finally commented on the transformation during a rare, quiet moment. You seem happier, sir, she observed. More balanced. Ethan smiled, surprising her. I am, he admitted. I'm learning there's more to life than the next deal or product launch. Does this have something to do with the little girl in the photo on your desk? Vanessa asked carefully. Ethan glanced at the framed picture of Lily at the aquarium, her face alight with joy as she watched the sea otters play. It was his most treasured possession. "That's my daughter," he said, the words still new enough to send a thrill through him. "I only recently learned about her." Vanessa's expression softened with understanding. "She looks like you around the eyes." "Does she?" Ethan hadn't considered the resemblance, too focused on the traits Lily shared with Claire. The thought that his daughter carried a visible piece of him in her features filled him with unexpected pride. As autumn deepened into winter, Ethan began to hope for more time with Lily. The twice-weekly visits no longer felt sufficient. He wanted to be there for ordinary moments, helping with homework, tucking her in at night, making breakfast on weekend mornings. He wanted to be a real father, not just a special visitor. The opportunity to discuss this came unexpectedly one evening when he arrived for his regular Tuesday visit. Lily opened the door, her face tearful. "Mommy's sick," she announced, pulling him inside with unusual urgency. Ethan found Claire on the couch, wrapped in a blanket and looking pale, a half-empty mug of tea on the coffee table beside her. "I'm fine," she insisted, though her voice was hoarse and her eyes fever-bright. "It's just a bad cold." "You don't look fine," Ethan countered, placing a hand on her forehead before she could object. "You're burning up." "Have you seen a doctor?" Claire shook her head. "I don't need a doctor for a cold. I just need rest." "Which you clearly haven't been getting," Ethan observed, noting the pile of work files on the coffee table. "Claire, you need to take care of yourself." "I have deadlines," she said stubbornly. "And Lily needs her mother healthy," Ethan interrupted gently. "And right now, she needs someone to look after both of you." Before Claire could argue, Ethan turned to Lily. "How about we make your mom some soup and get her comfortable? Then maybe we can read some books while she rests." Lily nodded solemnly, happy to have a mission. "Mommy likes chicken soup best." "Then chicken soup it is," Ethan declared, guiding Lily toward the kitchen. For the next few hours, Ethan took charge, something he was certainly accustomed to in business but never had the opportunity to do in this household. He and Lily prepared soup from a can, his cooking skills being limited at best, made sure Claire took some medicine, and then settled in the living room with a stack of Lily's favorite books. As the evening progressed, Claire drifted in and out of sleep on the couch, while Ethan handled Lily's bedtime routine under her daughter's expert guidance. Pajamas first, then teeth, then 3 books, then water, Lily instructed seriously. Ethan followed the established order precisely, marveling at the comfort of this ordinary ritual. When Lily was finally tucked in, he sat beside her bed, watching as her eyelids grew heavy. "Will you be here tomorrow?" she asked sleepily. "Do you want me to be?" Ethan asked. Lily nodded. "Mommy needs help, and you make good soup." Ethan smiled at the dubious compliment. "Then I'll be here." "Promise?" Lily's voice was already fading as sleep claimed her. "I promise," Ethan whispered, gently brushing a curl from her forehead. When he returned to the living room, Claire was awake again, looking marginally better after a few hours of rest. "You didn't have to do all this," she said, but her tone lacked its usual self-sufficiency. "I wanted to," Ethan replied, sitting in the armchair across from her. "Claire, let me help until you're better. I can work remotely, be here for Lily's school drop-offs and pickups, make sure you both have what you need." Claire started to refuse, then seemed to reconsider. "What about your company?" "My company will survive a few days without me physically present," Ethan said. "This is more important." Claire studied him, clearly weighing her options. Finally, practicality won out over pride. "Okay," she conceded. "But just until I'm back on my feet." Ethan nodded, not showing how significant this small victory felt. "Get some rest. I'll be back in the morning with breakfast and groceries." The next 3 days established a new pattern. Ethan arrived early each morning, helped Lily prepare for school, drove her to the building, and then returned to work remotely from Claire's living room, checking on her periodically. In the afternoons, he picked Lily up, supervised homework, and prepared simple meals, his culinary skills improving slightly with practice. By the third day, Claire was well enough to join them for dinner, though still wrapped in a blanket and moving slowly. "You're good with her," Claire observed as they watched Lily setting the table with careful precision. "Better than I expected." "Is that a compliment?" Ethan asked with a raised eyebrow. Claire smiled slightly. "I suppose it is. You've surprised me, Ethan." "In good ways, I hope." "Mostly," Claire admitted. "You're not the same man I knew 6 years ago." "No," Ethan agreed. "I'm not." The change in their dynamic became more pronounced after Claire's illness. Though Ethan returned to his regular visiting schedule, the atmosphere was different. Warmer, more collaborative. Claire began consulting him on decisions regarding Lily, from whether to sign her up for science camp to how to handle a playground disagreement with a friend. As Christmas approached, Lily's excitement grew exponentially. During one visit, she presented Ethan with a carefully written letter to Santa, asking his opinion on her requests. "Do you think it's too much to ask for a telescope and a rock tumbler?" she asked seriously. Ethan considered the question with matching gravity. "Well, those are both scientific equipment, so they go together nicely. I think Santa will understand." Lily beamed, satisfied with this logic. "That's what I thought, too." Later, when Lily was occupied with drawing, Ethan showed Claire a catalog he'd brought, open to a page featuring children's telescopes. "Would it be okay if I got this for her?" "For Christmas?" he asked carefully, still mindful of Claire's independence. Claire examined the page, then looked up with a slight frown. "That's very expensive, Ethan." "I know, but it's a good one. It'll last for years as she grows." Seeing Claire's hesitation, he added, "I've missed 5 Christmases, Claire. Let me make this one special." Claire sighed. "You can't buy her love, Ethan. You already have it." "This isn't about buying anything," Ethan insisted. "It's about encouraging her interests, showing her I pay attention to what she cares about." After a long moment, Claire nodded. "The telescope is fine. But let's coordinate on other gifts. I don't want Christmas morning to look like a toy store exploded." Ethan agreed readily, grateful for any concession that acknowledged his place in Lily's life. As he prepared to leave that evening, Claire surprised him with an unexpected invitation. "We always have Christmas Eve dinner here, just the 2 of us," she said. "Would you like to join us this year?" The invitation represented a significant step forward. "I'd love to," Ethan replied, trying to contain his enthusiasm to an appropriate level. "Can I bring anything?" "Just yourself," Claire said. "And maybe that chocolate cake Lily hasn't stopped talking about since you mentioned it." Ethan grinned. "Done." The invitation to Christmas Eve dinner occupied Ethan's thoughts in the weeks that followed. It wasn't just about spending the holiday with Lily, though that alone would have been enough. It was Claire's willingness to include him in a tradition that had been exclusively theirs, a tacit acknowledgement that he was now part of their family unit in some undefined way. As the day approached, Ethan found himself unexpectedly nervous. He wanted everything to be perfect. The gifts thoughtfully chosen, the cake from Seattle's best bakery, even his outfit carefully selected to be festive but not overwhelming. He felt like a teenager preparing for a first date, not a successful CEO in his late 30s. Michael teased him mercilessly when they met for lunch the week before Christmas. "I've never seen you this worked up over a dinner," he observed as Ethan debated whether to bring wine, despite not knowing if Claire drank alcohol. "Not even when you were closing the Westfield deal." "This is more important than any deal," Ethan replied simply. Michael's expression softened. "It's good to see you like this, Ethan, alive again." The comment gave Ethan pause. Had he been merely existing before Lily came into his life? The answer, he realized, was probably yes. For years he had been going through the motions, building his company, accumulating success but feeling little joy in it. Lily had changed that, reawakening parts of himself he had forgotten existed. "I've been thinking about Alex a lot," Ethan admitted. "About the things I should have said to him, the time I should have made for him." Michael nodded, understanding immediately. "And now you're making different choices with Lily." "I'm trying to," Ethan confirmed. "I don't want to look back 20 years from now with the same regrets." "You're a good father, Ethan," Michael said, surprising him with a direct assessment. "Better than you give yourself credit for." "I'm learning," Ethan replied. "Every day with her I'm learning." Christmas Eve arrived clear and cold, with a rare Seattle snowfall adding a perfect holiday atmosphere. Ethan arrived at Claire's house precisely at 6, arms laden with carefully wrapped presents and the promised chocolate cake. Lily answered the door, dressed in a red velvet dress with her curls tamed into 2 neat braids. "Daddy, it's snowing, and we have a fire, and Mommy made her special pasta." Her excitement was contagious, and Ethan found himself grinning as he stepped into the warmth of the house. The living room had been transformed with twinkling lights, handmade paper snowflakes hanging from the ceiling, and a modest tree decorated with what appeared to be a combination of store-bought ornaments and Lily's crafts. Claire emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She was wearing a simple green dress that brought out the color of her eyes, her hair loose around her shoulders. For a moment, Ethan was transported back 6 years, to when the sight of her would make his heart race. "Merry Christmas," she said, smiling. "You found us despite the snow." "I would have made it through a blizzard," Ethan replied, only half joking. Dinner was everything Ethan could have hoped for. Delicious food, Lily's excited chatter about Santa's imminent arrival, and a warm atmosphere that felt remarkably like the family Christmases he remembered from his childhood before loss and ambition had hardened him. After the meal, they gathered in the living room. Claire allowed Lily to open one present, new pajamas, a tradition apparently, before sending her to change for bed. Left alone with Claire, Ethan felt a familiar tension return. They had been careful in recent weeks, focusing their interactions on Lily, avoiding the deeper currents that still ran between them. "Thank you for including me tonight," Ethan said quietly. "It means more than I can say." Claire met his gaze. "You're her father, Ethan. You should be here for the important moments." "And what about the everyday moments?" The question slipped out before he could reconsider. Claire's expression became guarded. "What do you mean?" Ethan took a deep breath. He hadn't planned to have this conversation tonight, but perhaps there would never be a perfect time. "I want to be more involved in Lily's life," he said carefully. "Not just visits and special outings. I want to be a real father, present for the ordinary days, the difficult times, all of it." Claire was quiet for a long moment. "That would mean significant changes, Ethan. For all of us." "I know," he acknowledged. "And I'm ready for those changes. The question is, are you?" Before Claire could answer, Lily returned in her new Christmas pajamas, effectively ending the conversation. Ethan read The Night Before Christmas aloud, while Claire prepared hot chocolate, and then they helped Lily hang her stocking by the fireplace. As Ethan prepared to leave, promising to return in the morning for present opening, Lily hugged him fiercely. "This was the best Christmas Eve ever," she declared. "Because you were here." Over her head, Ethan's eyes met Claire's, and he saw something there, a softening, a consideration of possibilities that hadn't been present before. "Merry Christmas, Ethan," Claire said as she walked him to the door. "We'll see you tomorrow." Driving home through the gently falling snow, Ethan felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in years. Whatever happened next, whatever Claire decided about his role in their lives going forward, he had been given the most precious gift already, the chance to know and love his daughter. And perhaps, just perhaps, a chance to rebuild something with the woman he had never truly stopped caring for. Christmas morning dawned bright and clear, the fresh snow glistening under a rare winter sun. Ethan arrived at Claire's house early, excited to see Lily's reaction to the carefully chosen gifts. He had barely knocked before the door flew open, revealing Lily in her Christmas pajamas, practically vibrating with excitement. "Daddy! Santa came!" she exclaimed, grabbing his hand and pulling him inside with surprising strength for such a small person. The living room had been transformed overnight. Presents spilled out from under the tree. Stockings bulged with small treasures, and the air smelled of cinnamon and coffee. Claire was already there, curled up on the couch with a steaming mug, looking soft and approachable in flannel pajamas, and with her hair loosely tied back. "Merry Christmas," she greeted him with a smile. "Coffee? I made plenty." "Please," Ethan replied, removing his coat. He handed Claire a small gift bag. "This is for you." Nothing extravagant, I promise. Claire accepted it with a curious expression, but before she could open it, Lily's patience reached its limit. Can we open presents now? Please, she begged, looking between her parents with pleading eyes. What followed was a joyful chaos of torn wrapping paper, exclamations of delight, and genuine surprise. Ethan had coordinated with Claire as promised, ensuring his gifts complemented rather than overshadowed hers. The telescope was the crowning glory, of course. But he had also chosen books about space, a constellation projector for her bedroom ceiling, and a specially commissioned stuffed animal made to look like her favorite character from a book they had read together. Lily's reaction to each gift was everything Ethan could have hoped for, but what touched him most deeply was the gift she gave him. A handmade frame decorated with painted rocks and shells, containing a photo Claire had taken of the two of them at the zoo, heads bent together as they watched the penguins. I made the frame myself, Lily explained proudly. Mommy helped with the hot glue gun. It's perfect, Ethan said, his voice rough with emotion. The best present I've ever received. While Lily was distracted with her new treasures, Claire opened Ethan's gift. Inside the bag was a sleek, professional camera lens, one he had heard her admiring during a conversation weeks earlier, but dismissing as too expensive. Ethan, she breathed, running her fingers over the lens. This is too much. It's not, he countered gently. You're an incredible photographer, Claire. You should have the tools that match your talent. Claire looked up, her eyes bright with emotion. Thank you, she said simply. The moment was interrupted by Lily, who insisted they immediately set up the telescope by the big living room window. The rest of the morning passed in a happy blur of assembly instructions, testing new gifts, and Claire's delicious breakfast casserole. As they cleaned up the wrapping paper debris, Lily suddenly announced, "This is how Christmas should be, with a mommy and a daddy." The innocent statement hung in the air, loaded with implication. Claire and Ethan exchanged a look, neither quite sure how to respond. Families come in all different shapes, honey, Claire finally said. Some have mommies and daddies together, some have them apart, some have grandparents, or two mommies, or two daddies. I know, Lily said with childlike confidence. But I like this way the best. After Lily went to play with her new gifts, Claire led Ethan to the kitchen, clearly wanting to continue their interrupted conversation from the night before. She's getting attached to the idea of us as a traditional family, Claire said quietly, leaning against the counter. I don't want her to be disappointed. Ethan chose his words carefully. What do you want, Claire? For yourself, not just for Lily? Claire seemed surprised by the directness of the question. I want what's best for her, she said automatically. I know that, Ethan acknowledged. But what about for you? Beyond being a mother, what do you want? Claire was quiet for a long moment. I've spent so much time just trying to keep everything together, I haven't thought about what I want in a long time. Maybe it's time to start, Ethan suggested gently. Before Claire could respond, Lily burst into the kitchen, demanding that they come see the quote she had discovered in her Christmas stocking. The moment passed, but something had shifted between them, a door open to possibilities neither had allowed themselves to consider before. In the days following Christmas, Ethan found himself increasingly included in Claire and Lily's daily life. What had been scheduled visits became spontaneous invitations. Saturday morning pancakes, a trip to the Children's Science Museum, help assembling a complicated new bookshelf for Lily's growing collection. One evening in mid-January, as they were clearing the dinner dishes together while Lily finished her homework at the kitchen table, Claire made an unexpected announcement. I've been offered a photography assignment, she said, her voice carefully neutral. It would be a significant opportunity for my career. That's wonderful, Ethan replied immediately. What's the assignment? A series on national parks for Pacific Northwest magazine, Claire explained. Starting with Olympic National Park. The catch is, it would require me to be away for 4 days next month. Understanding dawned on Ethan. And you're worried about Lily? Claire nodded. I've never been away from her overnight before, except when she had that school sleepover last year. When is the assignment? Ethan asked. February 15th through the 18th. It's over a long weekend, so she'd only miss one day of school. Ethan didn't hesitate. She could stay with me. Claire looked up sharply. At your apartment? She's never even been there. It was true. In all these months, Ethan had never brought Lily to his penthouse, instinctively understanding that it wasn't a child-friendly environment, and not wanting to emphasize the disparity between his lifestyle and the one she was accustomed to. We could start with some shorter visits before then, Ethan suggested. Get her comfortable with the space. I have a guest room that could be hers. Claire still looked uncertain. 4 days is a long time, Ethan. There's the school routine, her activities, meals. I can handle it, Ethan assured her. I'll take the time off work, learn whatever routines I need to know. It's important that you take this opportunity, Claire. Claire studied him for a long moment. You've really changed, haven't you? She finally said. The Ethan I knew would never have volunteered to take 4 days away from work for childcare. The Ethan you knew didn't understand what was truly important, he replied simply. Over the next few weeks, they prepared Lily for the upcoming arrangement. Claire brought her to Ethan's penthouse for increasingly longer visits, allowing her to become familiar with the space. Ethan made several modifications, child-proofing certain areas, setting up the guest room with colorful bedding and a small desk, stocking the kitchen with Lily's favorite foods. During one of these visits, as Lily explored the apartment with the boundless curiosity of childhood, Claire stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, gazing out at the Seattle skyline. You have an incredible view, she observed. I can see why you chose this place. Ethan joined her at the window. I bought it for the status, not the view, he admitted. It was what someone in my position was expected to have. Claire glanced at him. And now? Now it feels empty most of the time, Ethan said honestly. Too big, too quiet. It's only alive when Lily's here. Claire nodded, understanding in her eyes. That's how I felt about our house at first. Just a place to sleep, until Lily filled it with noise and life. Daddy, Lily called from across the room. Can I put my telescope by this window? We could see the stars so much better from up here. That's a great idea, Ethan agreed, smiling at her excitement. We'll set it up before your stay. As the day of Claire's departure approached, Ethan found himself both excited and nervous about the extended time with Lily. He had studied her routine like it was a complex business proposal, making notes about her preferred breakfast cereals, bedtime rituals, and the precise way she liked her sandwiches cut for lunch. The night before Claire was set to leave, she came over to help Lily settle in. As they stood in the guest room, now thoroughly transformed with Lily's personal touches, Claire handed Ethan a detailed schedule. I've written everything down, she explained, an edge of anxiety in her voice. School drop-off times, her after-school activities, what she can and can't eat. Her pediatrician's number is at the top if anything happens. Claire, Ethan said gently, taking the papers, we'll be fine. I promise to call if there are any problems, but there won't be. Claire nodded, though she didn't look entirely convinced. I know. It's just, I've never been away from her like this. It's 4 days, Ethan reminded her. And you'll be back before we know it, with amazing photographs and stories to share. After Lily was tucked in, Claire lingered at the door, clearly reluctant to leave. I could still cancel, she said quietly. The magazine would understand. But you'd regret it, Ethan pointed out. This is an important opportunity for you, Claire. You deserve to pursue your passion. And Lily needs to see her mother doing that. Claire's expression softened. When did you get so wise about parenting? I had an excellent teacher, Ethan replied with a smile. The next morning was a flurry of last-minute instructions, tearful hugs, and promises to call every night. When Claire finally departed for Olympic National Park, Ethan and Lily stood at the window, waving until her car disappeared from view. She'll be back soon, Ethan assured Lily, who looked momentarily downcast. I know, Lily said, brightening, and we're going to have lots of adventures while she's gone, right? Absolutely, Ethan promised, starting with getting you to school on time. Race you to the elevator. The next 4 days were among the most challenging and rewarding of Ethan's life. He discovered that managing a multinational tech company was, in many ways, easier than ensuring a 5-year-old was fed, clothed, educated, and emotionally supported through each day. There were minor crises. A forgotten homework assignment, a stubborn knot in Lily's hair that reduced her to tears, a moment of homesickness on the second night that required an extra bedtime story, and a video call with Claire. But there were also triumphs. Lily's delight when Ethan attended her school's parent participation day, the perfect batch of cookies they baked together, the evening they spent stargazing with her telescope from the penthouse balcony. On Claire's last night away, after Lily had finally fallen asleep, Ethan found himself sitting quietly in the living room, reflecting on the past few days. His phone buzzed with a text from Claire. "How's everything going?" He sent back a photo of Lily peacefully sleeping, surrounded by her favorite stuffed animals, and wrote, "All good here. How's the photography going?" Claire's response came quickly. "Incredible. Got some amazing shots today. Can't wait to show you both. Miss you." The "you both" caught Ethan's attention. Not just Miss Lily, but miss you both. It was a small thing, perhaps nothing, but it warmed him nonetheless. The next day, Ethan and Lily prepared a welcome home dinner for Claire. Lily insisted on making handmade decorations, and Ethan ordered from Claire's favorite restaurant, knowing his cooking skills weren't up to the occasion. When Claire arrived, looking tired but happy, Lily launched herself into her mother's arms with such force that Claire stumbled back a step. "Mommy, we missed you so much. Daddy and I had pancakes and went to the park and watched movies and used my telescope, and he came to my school, and everyone thought he was super cool." Claire laughed, hugging Lily tightly. "It sounds like you had a wonderful time." She looked up at Ethan over Lily's head, her expression warm. "Thank you. We did have a great time," Ethan confirmed. "But we're glad you're back." Over dinner, Claire shared stories from her trip, showing them some of her favorite photographs on her camera. Her face was animated as she described hiking to remote waterfalls before dawn, waiting hours for the perfect light on a mountain ridge, capturing a family of otters playing in a secluded cove. "You're remarkable," Ethan said quietly as Lily examined the camera with careful hands. "These photographs are extraordinary." Claire blushed slightly at the praise. The magazine editor was pleased. "He's already talking about the next assignment in the series." "You should do it," Ethan said immediately. "Lily and I can manage whenever you need to travel." Claire looked at him thoughtfully. "You really mean that, don't you?" "Of course," Ethan replied. "You deserve to pursue your career, Claire. And I want to be a real parent, not just a weekend father." Later, after Lily had fallen asleep in her temporary bedroom, Claire and Ethan sat on the balcony with glasses of wine, the city lights spread out below them like stars. "I kept expecting disaster to strike while I was gone," Claire admitted. "But you handled everything perfectly." "Not perfectly," Ethan corrected with a smile. "We had a minor meltdown over hair detangling, and I completely failed at French braiding. But we managed." Claire laughed softly. "It took me months to master French braiding." "You'll get there." The casual assumption that he would have future opportunities to practice sent a surge of hope through Ethan. "Claire," he began carefully, "I've been thinking about something, and I wanted to get your thoughts." "That sounds serious," she observed, turning to face him more fully. "It is," Ethan acknowledged. "My lease on this penthouse is ending next month. I've been considering buying a house instead, something more suitable for Lily's visits. Something with a yard, maybe near your neighborhood." Claire was quiet for a moment, considering. "That makes sense," she said finally. "Lily would love having outdoor space." "There's more," Ethan continued, gathering his courage. "I've also been thinking about my work schedule, about making more permanent changes to be available for Lily. And for you, if you want to pursue more of these photography assignments." "What kind of changes?" Claire asked. "I've been training my COO to take over more of the day-to-day operations," Ethan explained. "I'd still be involved in major decisions and strategy, but I wouldn't need to be in the office 10 hours a day, 6 days a week." Claire looked genuinely surprised. "You'd step back from Rain Tech? After everything you've built?" "I'm not stepping back from the company," Ethan clarified. "I'm stepping towards something more important." He paused, meeting her gaze directly. "Toward family." The word hung between them, loaded with meaning and possibility. "Ethan," Claire said quietly, "what are you really asking?" "I'm asking for a chance," he replied honestly. "A chance to be a full-time father to Lily. And maybe, if you're open to it, a chance for us to see if there's still something worth exploring between us." Claire's expression was unreadable in the dim light. "We're different people now," she said finally. "Both of us." "I know," Ethan acknowledged, "and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we needed to grow into the people who could make this work." Claire didn't respond immediately, looking out over the city as if searching for answers in the distant lights. "I can't make any promises," she said at last. "For Lily's sake, we need to be certain." "I'm not asking for promises," Ethan assured her. "Just possibility. The chance to see where this might lead, one day at a time." Claire turned back to him, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "One day at a time," she agreed. "I think I can manage that." It wasn't everything, but it was a beginning. A door opened to a future Ethan had hardly dared imagine when he sat alone on that park bench months ago, grieving his brother and the emptiness of his successful but hollow life. The next morning, as they prepared to return to Claire's house, Lily asked the question Ethan had been both hoping for and dreading. "Can't we all just live together? Like a regular family?" Claire exchanged a look with Ethan, silently communicating. "Honey," she began gently, "families come in many different forms, remember? Right now our family works with separate houses. But you like Daddy again, don't you?" Lily persisted with a child's directness. "I can tell." Claire's cheeks colored slightly. "Yes, I like your daddy," she admitted, "but grown-up relationships are complicated." "They don't have to be," Lily argued with perfect 5-year-old logic. "If you like someone, you want to be with them. That's simple." Out of the mouths of babes, Ethan thought, fighting a smile. "How about this?" he suggested, crouching down to Lily's level. "Your mom and I are going to spend more time together, all three of us as a family. And we'll see where that leads. Is that okay?" Lily considered this compromise, her small face serious. "I guess," she conceded, "but I still think it would be better if we all lived together." "Noted," Ethan said solemnly, earning a laugh from Claire. As they gathered Lily's belongings, preparing to leave the penthouse, Ethan felt a curious mixture of emotions: hope for the future, gratitude for how far they'd come, and a deep contentment he hadn't known was possible. 6 months ago, he had been a man defined by his work, isolated by success, and haunted by regrets. Now, helping his daughter pack her telescope while sharing quiet smiles with the woman he'd never stopped caring for, Ethan realized that sometimes the most important journeys began with the smallest steps, like a little girl's hug on a rainy day in the park. The Seattle spring arrived with a riot of color, cherry blossoms lining the streets and daffodils pushing through the soil in every park. For Ethan, the changing season mirrored the transformation in his own life. A reawakening, a fresh start, a second chance he'd never expected to receive. True to his word, he had found a house, a charming craftsman with a generous yard just 10 minutes from Claire and Lily. The previous owners had lovingly restored much of the original woodwork while updating the kitchen and bathrooms, creating a perfect blend of character and modern convenience. Most importantly, it had a south-facing backyard ideal for the garden Lily had been begging to plant since discovering a book about growing vegetables at school. On moving day, Claire and Lily arrived early, armed with coffee, donuts, and boundless enthusiasm. Lily immediately claimed the task of directing the movers, clipboard in hand as she solemnly checked items off a list she had created herself. "The blue couch goes in the living room," she instructed a bemused mover, pointing imperiously toward the front of the house. "And be careful with the telescope. It's very scientific." Claire sidled up to Ethan as they watched this scene unfold. "She gets the bossiness from you," she teased, handing him a coffee. "Clearly your influence," Ethan countered with a smile. "I've seen you direct a photo shoot." The easy banter between them had become more common in recent weeks, a comfortable familiarity growing alongside something deeper neither was quite ready to name. They were taking things slowly, as promised: family dinners, weekend outings, school events with both of them in attendance. But the current had shifted, pulling them gently but inexorably toward each other. By mid-afternoon, the movers had departed, leaving a house full of boxes and furniture in need of arranging. Lily had claimed a sunny corner of the living room for her science station, insisting that her telescope, rock collection, and growing library of nature books required a dedicated space. "This house needs a woman's touch," Claire observed, as she helped Ethan unpack kitchen items. "It's a bit bachelorish at the moment." "I'm open to suggestions," Ethan replied, glancing around at the sparse decorations and neutral color scheme. "I've never been good at making spaces feel like home." Claire considered this. "Maybe Lily and I could help?" "If you want." The offer hung in the air, significant in its implication. Claire wasn't just offering decorating advice. She was offering to help create a home, a place where Lily would feel comfortable, where perhaps all three of them could build something lasting. "I'd like that," Ethan said simply. The following weeks saw a gradual transformation of the house. Claire brought over framed photographs, landscapes she had taken, candid shots of Lily at various ages, and a few newer ones of Ethan and Lily together. Colorful throw pillows appeared on the once austere couch, plants brought life to empty corners, and Lily's artwork claimed prominent positions on the refrigerator. Most significantly, they planted the garden together one warm Saturday in April, Lily meticulously placing seed packets according to a diagram she had drawn, Claire capturing the moment with her camera, and Ethan digging in the rich soil with a contentment he had never found in boardrooms or business deals. "I've been thinking," Claire said that evening as they sat on Ethan's back porch, watching Lily chase fireflies in the twilight, "about your suggestion regarding my photography assignments." Ethan turned to her, interest piqued. "What about it?" "The magazine wants me to do the next National Park series," Claire explained. "Mount Rainier this time. It would be another 4-day trip next month." "We'd love to have Lily stay again," Ethan said immediately. "She can help me finish setting up the guest room as her room here." Claire nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Actually, I was thinking about something a bit different this time." "Oh?" Ethan tried to keep his tone neutral, not wanting to pressure her. "What if you both came with me?" Claire suggested. "Not for the actual shoots. I'd need to be up before dawn and hike to remote locations, but you could stay at the lodge, explore the more accessible trails with Lily during the day, and we could all be together in the evenings." The proposal took Ethan by surprise, a pleasant one. "Like a family vacation," he said, testing the concept. "Exactly," Claire confirmed, a slight flush coloring her cheeks. "Lily's never been to Mount Rainier, and it would be good for her to see me working, not just disappearing for days at a time." "I think it's a wonderful idea," Ethan said sincerely. "And perfect timing. I've been meaning to take some real time away from the office." Claire's smile was worth any number of missed meetings or delayed projects. "I'll make the arrangements then." The trip to Mount Rainier became a milestone in their evolving relationship. For 4 days, they functioned as a family unit. Claire leaving before dawn for her photography expeditions. Ethan and Lily exploring age-appropriate trails and visitor centers during the day. All three reuniting in the evenings to share stories over dinner in the rustic lodge. On their final evening, after Lily had fallen asleep in the adjoining room of their suite, Claire and Ethan sat on their private balcony, sharing a bottle of wine as the last light faded from the magnificent mountain. "Thank you for suggesting this," Ethan said, watching as Claire scrolled through the day's photographs on her camera. "It's been perfect." Claire looked up, her expression soft in the fading light. "It has, hasn't it? Better than I expected." "What did you expect?" Ethan asked curiously. Claire considered the question. "Complications. Awkwardness. The strain of pretending to be something we're not quite sure we are yet." She gestured vaguely between them. "This. Whatever this is becoming." "And instead?" Ethan prompted gently. "Instead it felt natural," Claire admitted. "Like we've been doing this for years." She paused, setting her camera aside. "It scares me sometimes how easily we've fallen into this pattern. How much Lily loves it." Ethan understood her concern immediately. "You're worried about what happens if it doesn't work out." Claire nodded. "She's already so invested in the idea of us as a family. If we try and fail..." "We might fail," Ethan acknowledged honestly. "I can't promise we won't, but I can promise that whatever happens between us, I will always be Lily's father. That won't change." "I know that," Claire said softly, "and it means everything." A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the distant sound of wind in the pines. Finally, Claire spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never stopped caring about you, you know. Even when I was angry. Even when I convinced myself we were better apart." The admission caught Ethan off guard, though perhaps it shouldn't have. "I never stopped looking for you," he replied simply. "Even when everyone told me to let go." Claire's hand found his on the armrest between them, her fingers warm as they intertwined with his. It was a small gesture, but in the context of their carefully maintained boundaries, it felt momentous. "We should probably get some sleep," Claire said eventually, though she made no move to release his hand. "Early start tomorrow." "Probably," Ethan agreed, equally reluctant to end the moment. When Claire finally stood, she hesitated for just a second before leaning down and pressing a soft kiss to Ethan's cheek. "Good night, Ethan," she murmured, and then she was gone, disappearing into the suite's interior. Ethan remained on the balcony for a long time after, watching the stars emerge above the mountain and feeling the lingering warmth of her lips against his skin. The transition from spring to summer brought new developments in their evolving family dynamic. Claire's National Park series was garnering significant attention, with several prestigious magazines expressing interest in her work. Ethan's restructuring of Raintech's leadership was proving successful, allowing him the flexibility to be present for school events and family dinners without sacrificing the company's growth. Most significantly, the boundaries between their separate households began to blur. What had started as weekend visits expanded to include weeknight dinners, impromptu movie nights, and practical arrangements like Ethan picking Lily up from school when Claire had a shoot running late. By July, it was not uncommon for Claire to fall asleep on Ethan's couch after a long day, or for Ethan to linger over coffee at Claire's kitchen table long after Lily had gone to bed. They were, in many ways, functioning as a family without ever having defined themselves as such. The question of what exactly they were becoming hung between them, acknowledged but unaddressed, until Lily's 6th birthday approached. "She wants a backyard camping party," Claire explained as they discussed plans one evening. "With a tent and s'mores and ghost stories, the whole experience." "My yard would be perfect for that," Ethan offered. "We could set up the telescope too, make it an astronomy night." Claire nodded, making notes in her planner. "That sounds great. I'll handle the food and invitations if you can manage the tent and outdoor setup." "Deal," Ethan agreed, then hesitated before adding, "She also mentioned wanting a family photo taken. The 3 of us." Claire looked up, her expression careful. "Did she?" "During our last museum trip," Ethan confirmed. "She saw a family portrait exhibit and said she wished we had one." Claire was quiet for a moment, absently twirling her pen between her fingers. "I suppose we could do that." "For her birthday." "Only if you're comfortable with it," Ethan said quickly, not wanting to pressure her. Claire met his gaze directly. "What are we doing, Ethan?" she asked softly. "Really?" The question caught him off guard, though perhaps it shouldn't have. They had been dancing around this conversation for months. "I think," he said carefully, "we're building something. Slowly, cautiously, but deliberately." "And where does it lead?" Claire pressed. "Because Lily sees it, even if we haven't acknowledged it. She expects us to become a traditional family eventually." Ethan took a deep breath. "I know what I want it to lead to," he admitted. "But I've been following your pace, respecting your boundaries." "And if I said I'm ready to redefine those boundaries?" Claire asked, her voice steady despite the vulnerability in her eyes. Ethan felt his heart rate accelerate. "Then I'd say I've been in love with you since I was 32 years old, and that hasn't changed. That finding you and Lily has given my life meaning I never expected to have. That I want to build a future with both of you, whatever shape that takes." Claire's eyes glistened with unshed tears. 6 years is a long time, Ethan. We've both changed." "For the better, I think," Ethan said gently. "At least, I hope I have." "You have," Claire confirmed without hesitation. "The man I left wouldn't have recognized what truly matters. Wouldn't have put family before business, wouldn't have planted a garden with his daughter, or spent hours learning to French braid her hair." "And you?" Ethan asked. "How have you changed?" Claire considered this. "I've learned to trust again," she said finally. "To believe that people can change, that second chances are possible. To accept help without seeing it as a threat to my independence." She paused, collecting her thoughts. "When I left Seattle, I was running from hurt, from disappointment. I told myself I was being strong, but part of it was fear. Fear that if I stayed, if I told you about the pregnancy, I'd always come second to your ambition." "You wouldn't have," Ethan began, but Claire shook her head. "We'll never know," she said gently. "But I believe you now when you say family comes first. I've seen it in how you've rearranged your entire life for Lily, for us." The acknowledgement of what he had done, of how far he had come, filled Ethan with a quiet pride he had never felt from any business accomplishment. "So," he said carefully, "where does that leave us?" Claire's smile was soft but certain. "Moving forward, I think. Together this time." The conversation marked a turning point, though the change was subtle at first. A lingering touch here, a shared private smile there. They still maintained separate households, but the emotional walls between them had finally begun to crumble. Lily's birthday party was a resounding success, with a backyard transformed into a magical camping adventure. A large tent occupied the center of the lawn, surrounded by fairy lights strung from tree to tree. A portable fire pit provided the perfect setting for s'mores, and Ethan's telescope stood ready for stargazing once darkness fell. Claire had outdone herself with the food. A space-themed cake, constellation cookies, and rocket-shaped sandwiches delighted the group of excited 6-year-olds. Ethan managed the outdoor activities, organizing a scavenger hunt that had the children racing around the yard with treasure maps and compasses. As evening approached and other parents arrived to collect their children, Lily insisted on the promised family photo before anyone left. "My dad has the best tripod for his telescope," she informed her friends proudly. "He's going to set the timer so we can all be in the picture together." The casual way she referred to Ethan as "my dad," not "my daddy," as she usually said when addressing him directly, but "my dad" when speaking to others, caught both adults by surprise. It was a subtle distinction, but a meaningful one, the difference between a personal relationship and a public identity. Ethan set up the camera on his tripod, positioning it carefully to capture the three of them with the fairy-lit tent in the background. As the timer counted down, he took his place beside Claire, Lily standing between them with an arm around each parent. "Smile," he reminded them unnecessarily, for all three were already beaming as the shutter clicked. Later, after the last guest had departed, and Lily had finally succumbed to sleep in her tent, having insisted on actually camping in the backyard, despite Claire's offer of her comfortable bed inside, Ethan and Claire sat beside the dying embers of the fire pit. "It was a perfect day," Claire said, her voice soft in the night air. "She'll remember this birthday for a long time." "She called me my dad today," Ethan noted, still processing the moment. "Not daddy, just dad. Like it's an established fact, something everyone knows." Claire smiled, understanding the significance. "Because to her, it is. You're not just the man who visits or takes her on outings anymore. You're her father, in every way that matters." The validation warmed Ethan more deeply than the fire ever could. "Thank you," he said simply, "for allowing me to be that for her." "You earned it," Claire replied. "Every day, every moment you've shown up for her. Every promise you've kept." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fireflies dance above the lawn. Eventually, Claire spoke again, her voice thoughtful. "I've been offered another assignment," she said. "A big one. National Geographic wants me to document the coastal ecosystems of the Pacific Northwest. It would be a 6-part series, spread over the next year." "Claire, that's incredible," Ethan said immediately, genuinely delighted for her. "National Geographic is the pinnacle for nature photographers." Claire nodded, pride evident in her expression. "It's a dream opportunity, but it would mean more travel. A week here, 10 days there, throughout the year. We'll make it work," Ethan assured her without hesitation. "Lily and I have our routine down now. And maybe for some of the locations we could join you, like we did at Mount Rainier." Claire's expression softened. "You've never once suggested I shouldn't take these opportunities." Not even a hint that my career might be inconvenient for you or for Lily." "Why would I?" Ethan asked, genuinely confused. "Your photography isn't just a job, Claire. It's part of who you are, part of what makes you an amazing mother and person I care deeply about." Claire studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable in the dim light. Then, with deliberate movement, she shifted closer on the bench they shared, eliminating the careful space they usually maintained between them. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice low, "about practical arrangements." "Oh?" Ethan tried to focus on her words rather than her proximity. "All this back and forth between houses. It's becoming complicated. Lily constantly forgetting things at one place or the other. The inefficiency of maintaining two full households when we spend so much time together anyway." Ethan's heart began to race, but he kept his voice steady. "What are you suggesting?" Claire took a deep breath. "I think, if you're amenable, it might make sense to consider consolidating our living situation." The carefully neutral phrasing made Ethan smile despite the seriousness of the moment. "Are you asking me to move in together, Claire Bennett?" A flush spread across her cheeks, visible even in the firelight. "I'm suggesting we discuss the practical benefits of shared housing," she corrected primly, though her eyes danced with amusement. Very pragmatic," Ethan teased gently. "And would this practical arrangement involve shared sleeping quarters? Or would we maintain separate rooms for propriety's sake?" Claire's laugh was soft but genuine. "I haven't thought that far ahead," she claimed, though the deepening color in her cheeks suggested otherwise. "Well, as someone with extensive experience in real estate development," Ethan said, his tone mock serious, "I'd be happy to discuss various floor plans and usage scenarios at your convenience." "You're impossible," Claire informed him, but she was smiling. "Improbable, perhaps," Ethan conceded. "But here we are anyway." Claire's expression grew more serious. "Here we are," she echoed softly. "After everything, against all odds." The moment stretched between them, full of unspoken emotion. Then, with the decisiveness that took Ethan by surprise, Claire closed the remaining distance between them and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, a question rather than a demand. But when Ethan responded, one hand coming up to cradle her face with infinite tenderness, it deepened into something more profound. An answer, a promise, a homecoming. When they finally parted, Claire rested her forehead against his, her eyes closed. "I've been wanting to do that for months," she admitted. "Only months?" Ethan teased gently. "I've been wanting to do that for 6 years." Claire opened her eyes, meeting his gaze with newfound certainty. "We should check on Lily," she said, though she made no move to pull away. "In a minute," Ethan replied, his thumb tracing the curve of her cheek. "I'm rather enjoying this practical discussion of shared housing arrangements." Claire's laugh was soft against his lips as he kissed her again, the years of separation and uncertainty finally giving way to the promise of a future together. Later, as they peeked into the tent to find Lily sleeping peacefully surrounded by her birthday gifts, Claire whispered, "We should tell her together about the possibility of moving in." "She'll be thrilled," Ethan predicted. "She's been campaigning for this since Christmas." "I know," Claire said with a smile. "Our daughter is nothing if not persistent." The casual use of our daughter, not my daughter or your daughter, but our daughter, filled Ethan with a joy so profound it was almost painful. From strangers to co-parents to family, their journey had come full circle. As they walked back to the house hand in hand, the stars shining above and their daughter sleeping safely nearby, Ethan reflected on the remarkable path that had led them here. A chance encounter in a park, a child's compassionate hug, a search that had spanned years, all culminating in this moment of quiet certainty. "What are you thinking?" Claire asked, noticing his thoughtful expression. Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "I'm thinking that sometimes the most important things in life find us when we least expect them, and that I'm grateful every day that Lily decided to hug a sad stranger in the park." Claire's smile was luminous in the moonlight. "So am I," she said softly. "So am I." Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.